بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والشكر لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all our beloved viewers. Alhamdulillah, we have today a new episode of Youth Breeze. Youth Breeze is a platform that gives a voice to young Muslims who want to bring about a net positive change in the world. And Alhamdulillah, I have with me today two wonderful guests who are youth representatives of Al-Waagah Institute. So let me repeat that again, that my guests for today are youth representatives of Al-Waagah Institute. So Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to the two of you, and shukran for joining me for today.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. The topic of our discussion will be Al-Waagah Institute. And Al-Waagah Institute is an institute based here in Cape Town that looks to assist deaf people and people who find it difficult to hear or hard of hearing. And this is an institute that has come up with projects and initiatives in assisting and making easier the lives of deaf people. So that's going to be the topic of our discussion today, Al-Waagah Institute, and how they assist or how they make the lives of deaf people easier. Alhamdulillah. So let's start off with our first question for today, which is, tell us what Al-Waagah Institute is about.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, I would like to thank Academia Library for hosting and having us as guest speakers. I'm very nervous, so please bear with me.
I mean, no
as,
problem,
as it's our first time on air and live and stuff.
Yes, there's always a first to everything.
Yes. Alhamdulillah. So Al-Waagah Institute is an advocacy group that caters for the needs of the deaf within Cape Town.
Okay.
And if I refer to the needs, for example, like assisting with social grant applications, interpretation when needed, and also the mediation, between any parties or anything for that matter. In other words, in every aspect, where there's challenges, that they have, there's no communication, there's no, they're limited to certain things, then there's where we step in and do what we can.
Okay.
Yes. We also now move to focus on the educational side, or the educational needs of the deaf, and the aim of that is to the aim of focusing on that is to bridge that communication gap, between the deaf and the hearing.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
And that is all because of the experiences that deaf people face every day, because there's no communication, there's no, there's that communication breakdown basically.
Yes.
So we would like to eliminate that, and as one unit, we need to stand as one unit.
Yes.
Whereas if we have that communication breakdown, we're not one unit. We separate and we push them this special corner and things like that. Also the school that we would like to create, we will combine both English and sign language.
Okay.
In the same class. And in, like, for example, we will the lesson will be basically then be taught in English, which is the norm, and also we will have a person who signs everything that's being said.
Okay.
So there will be a mix of deaf people and hearing people sitting next to each other.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
And also in this way we are like able to, how can I say, we're able to create a generation of people that is aware of deaf and their plight.
Okay.
And and also in that way there's the more people is deaf aware, the more easier and accessible things will become for them as well.
Yeah, something that's an interesting point that you mentioned, because it's very easy for someone who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved their hearing to live their lives without having interacted with the deaf people, to the point that they might not even be aware that there's a whole community of deaf people around them or close to them. And a statistic that I found quite surprising and recently is that there's up to 4 million South Africans who are deaf or hard of hearing. And that's around 6% of the population. So that's a considerable amount of the population. And if you're not aware that there's such a community out there, then it's almost like you're deleting them from the population or from the country, and that makes things difficult for them. You know, that's why I appreciate and the initiatives that Al-Waagah Institute, as you're sharing with me, is trying to bridge the gap between hearing people and deaf people. Okay, is there anything more that you would like to share with us about the Al-Waagah Institute? Okay. Okay, so now we'll move on to our second question. So the two of you are youth representatives of Al-Waagah Institute. So tell us what this role is about. What do you do as a youth representative?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We represent the youth at the EXCO level. We voice the opinions, the thoughts, the concerns, or any issues from the deaf. We relay that information to the EXCO and vice versa.
And EXCO means the executive board.
Sorry?
EXCO means the executive board, or like the top management of the institute. Okay. So conveying,
just vice versa with the information, like we the middle people, like whatever information we get, we relay. Whatever information we get from the deaf, we relay it to the EXCO. And also we do programs for the deaf youth. We do maybe social gatherings, camps. Like we try to do a lot of programs, but due to limited funds, we can't do much. And then we try to like maybe bridge the gaps, but
okay. Oh, that's wonderful, mashallah. Something that was shared to me is that it's much easier for the youth to take heed or listen to the advice of someone who's similar to them, who's a young person. You know, that a young person can much more in a much more efficient way, convey some words of advice to another young person. You know, that efficiency and, as you've mentioned right now, the relatability between them. So, and that's an interesting role that the two of you play in the organization. MashaAllah. Now I'd like us to move to and share with us some of the general life experiences that the deaf people and people of hard of hearing experience on a daily basis, and what are their challenges. So now I will try to take us into their minds. Like, let's try to be in their shoes, inshallah.
Okay, that question is a bit in depth and stuff, but some things and that I have witnessed and see also as I'm married to a deaf person.
MashaAllah.
People have this mindset of them that they are not able, they are not able. Or they can't do this, they can't do that, But just because they might not be like academically wise there, or bright in that, but if it were that they do certain things, that they are able to do, then we'll actually be very surprised. You understand? And something that people must just bear in mind is that they're not like disabled, they are different abled.
Subhanallah.
You understand?
Yes.
So things that they like face and challenges that they come about is things like no access, or maybe not no access, but limited access. For example, we have access to come sit by this library to watch a program on the TV, on the radio, or anything, you know. Whereas the deaf, on the other hand, they're also present, you know, on this program or on this live, but they're not understanding anything that anybody's saying. So they just sit there and watch, you know, and obviously miss out on so much opportunities and stuff. Do you understand?
Yes.
And then, you know, but being them and, you know, their feelings and stuff, they just feel, you know, we need to now step back, man, and be this one-sided. And that's why people use this terminology, or most people know it as deaf and dumb, you know. But that is something that we must really think about, because if they are dumb, then it makes us as the hearing people more dumber than what they are. Because you can teach, you know, like I just had this conversation with Yusra in the car on our way. I told her that you are able to teach a hearing person to sign, but you can't teach a deaf person to hear.
Allah.
You understand? Yeah. So if you really want to look at it and say deaf and dumb, you know, then that, you know, that on its own is something difficult for them to accept, basically. You understand? And when I say limited to limited access, you know, to things in their general life, even, for example, if they want to go to the shop, if they want to go to the doctor, to the hospital, you know, there's no, if there's any pain, I can't tell the doctor, you know what, this is paining here, and I can't explain the pain, you know. I can just show him there's something wrong there, and he need to, you know, take it further. So stuff like that, man, you know, is difficult for them. You understand?
Yes.
Even within the workplace, man, for example, within the workplace, that alone is something on its own as well, man. You know, you have your group or your team that you stick with, but you're not also included there. Because when they're sitting by the table, tea time or lunchtime, they're laughing, and you sitting and looking at what they are laughing at, you know, that kind of thing. And hence the reason why we are focusing on the educational sector of for the deaf, because we find that most of them is illiterate due to their poor education that they get. You understand?
Yes.
And in fact, that is the reason why many of the deaf don't have work. You understand? They you know, they because of the education level, it makes them unemployable, basically. You understand?
Okay.
Yes. Also things that they how can I say, challenges and stuff that they go through, or that they face due to their hearing loss, is like trust issues, man. You know, that they have, you know, a bit of a stigma attached to them, is trust issues. They don't trust easily, you know. That's why you will hear people speak of deaf community, you know, because they themselves call them a community on their own, you know.
Okay.
So because they are this close, clingy group, you know, you as a hearing person, you're not easily allowed in that circle.
Okay.
You understand?
Okay.
So they don't easily trust. You understand?
Okay. Yes, and a point that you have shared that I believe everyone should reflect on is the fact that deaf people could be present in a particular environment where there's hearing people also. So they're physically present, but they feel excluded because no one can connect to them.
Yes, I won't say they feel excluded, but they are excluded.
They are.
They
Okay.
are excluded. Yes.
Not just the feeling,
yes,
but they are.
They are excluded.
Okay.
You know, if there's no interpreter, you know, something that we lack within today. If there's no interpreters, then he go home was not getting the message. You know, or knowing what the program was about. You know, he saw all the nice things, he saw the photos and the this, and everybody's excited and going on the stage taking photos, but he's sitting there, he don't know what is this about, you know. You can see everything,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
but you don't really know why, You understand?
Yes.
And something that also like just to think of and try and see how difficult things can become for them, you know, and even for us who's assisting with them, you know. Al-Waagah took approximately 60 deaf people on Umrah in 2019.
MashaAllah, subhanallah.
And you know, that alone was a group that needed much more attention and stuff, because like for example, we had to take another 60 people with us to accompany the 60 that we have.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So
And 60 hearing people.
yes,
Okay.
so it was 60 hearing people and 60 deaf people,
Okay.
you know. And the reason for that was because we like just to control everything basically, man.
Okay.
You know, so we can't take 60 deaf people and just go till there, have your program, you know, and you know, have a successful program basically,
Yes,
man.
yeah.
Because if I were to call or need the attention of 2-3 people, I can't mention their name, I can't call them in any way. You understand?
yeah.
So that is why we needed the help of the other hearing people. You
Oh, so
understand?
you were
So-
working through them.
Yes. So I'm. You know what I'm just trying to say is, can you but imagine how difficult it is to, you know, a big group of people,
Okay.
and you have no voice to them basically, man.
Mm.
You know.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yes, and because of being excluded from the environment or from other people, it drives them to want to isolate themselves from everyone else and form a
Yes,
community
yes.
of their own. and the solution to this exclusion would be to learn sign language, right?
Yes.
And that's something that we should take in steps towards, you know, try to learn some basic sign language, inshallah. And I would like us now to move to the next part of the conversation, which is about, and can you shed some light on the projects and initiatives that Al-Waagah Institute has come up with in assisting the deaf individuals and those of hard of hearing? So what projects and initiatives has Al-Waagah come up with?
Okay, so we have madrasas every Sunday for the deaf people. We have 3 classes. One class is for older people, and then we have youth, and then we have small children. And then we also have sign language classes. They also offer sign language classes to who's ever is interested. And then we did a workshop with CEDA and National Youth Development Agency. And also we have those projects where we do annual camps with our madrasa, which is like to build team. Like it's almost like team building.
Okay,
Yeah.
team building. Okay. And
Yes.
when are those the projects that Al-Waagah has? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us when do you have the sign language classes and where?
We have sign language classes every Saturday at Al-Waagah's premises in Bridgetown, up St. Kitts. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, on Saturdays. Inshallah. Yes, and just to connect what Brother Abdul Wahid had shared before about the literacy rate in deaf communities and the need of education. So it seems that, and because of the situation, that there needs to be extra efforts, right, in educating members of our communities who are deaf. And this is something that, alhamdulillah, we should be appreciative and thankful for Al-Waagah Institute taking the initiative in attempting or in educating the deaf members of our communities, alhamdulillah. Now we move on to, and can you share with us the basics or an introduction to sign language? And finally, can you teach us how to say the Shahadah in sign language, inshallah?
Yes. So okay. Where do I start?
So the
Sign language is first of all it's a language on its own.
okay.
Right? It's a language on its own. You know, like every other language. You know, because something that people don't understand is that is something on their own. Right? So, for example, like if you look into the deaf culture alone, they have their own culture, you know. Like we have our ways, we sit in our ways, and you know, kind of thing. So the deaf is as well. You understand? So these things linked to the way they are, and you know, because of their hearing loss and stuff, they are a different way to how we are. You understand? Sign language is more of a visual kind of thing, you know, and like everything need to be clear in front of you, you know. It is tiring, I must say. That is, you know, as an interpreter, I must say, and it's more how can I say? It is very easy to learn as well, you know, because
Can I mention one thing? That both of you can speak in sign language, right?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
She's a hard of hearing person.
Okay.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
So I'm not you know, on a high level anything, but alhamdulillah I am able to communicate, you know, with some things. But yeah, like I was saying, sign language isn't you know, that difficult, and you know, because people, if they think sign language, they think, you know, it's just hand movements and stuff. It is basically just hand movements, you know. We don't give the full description like if it was in English. It is 3 lines. If I were to interpret that 3 lines, it will take me like 2 seconds. Do
Okay.
you understand?
Okay.
So everything is summarized, and we just give the gist of the message, you know, the important part of the message. You understand? And like for example, the structure of sign language alone compared to English is different. You know, if I were to say like,
Let's say something like, the boy went to the shop.
so then you will just say like now the structure changed in that way because in sign language you focus first on who, you know, for example. So I will say or what, like for example, shop, and then the boy, you know. So you do you understand? Like if I were to say I'm flying from Cape Town to Joburg Saturday morning, you know, I would, if I were to take that in sign language, I would place Joburg, you know, like Joburg, there's Joburg, here's Cape Town, you know, so this is Cape Town, this is Joburg. So now the deaf already know that this is Joburg, you know, this is Joburg, and this is Cape Town. So then I would just like physically say, you know, I'm flying, you know, but from where? Joburg. So I'm flying from Joburg to Cape Town. Saturday morning, you know. So that's why I said it's more of a visual kind of thing, and you understand, and a body language, you know, depending on expressions as well. Something very important, like I can't stand where it's dark, you know. If I were to interpret anything or communicate even for that matter, you can't stand in a place that is dark and you're not visible. You understand? So basically, and the only thing that they read, or where they read your body language, is from the head till about here. You know, in this range. You understand? So just this needs to be visible, and you know. And yeah. Like just some tips also on that note. If you are to communicate even with a deaf person, don't like make your own sign up, man. You know, like any, you know, this thingy, because they do find that very offensive in a way. You understand? So you can leave the hand gestures and things, and a deaf person, you will really be surprised how a warm welcoming you will get by them if you were to just make one effort to sign a word, or even a greeting for that matter. Do you understand? They will, like, you know, give you a very warm welcome. They will, like, yeah, they will honor you basically, man. You know, just for knowing that you are interested, you know, in their culture, in their language, and you know. So ways that you can communicate is like normal. Just make the shapes, talk a bit slow, you know. Make sure that your mouth is visible. For example, you know, if you are to call a deaf person, you can wave at him. You know, if he's standing in front of you, you can wave at him.
Okay.
If his back is faced to you, you can just tap him on the shoulder, or you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
MashaAllah, subhanallah. Okay, so you've mentioned to us that sign language is a language of its own.
Yes.
So, because someone might think that it's like a mini language or a shadow of a language, but it's a language of its own, like
yes.
Arabic and
Yes,
English.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And it's a very visual language, because now
Yes.
you're speaking to individuals who cannot hear, so you have to use the visuals, right? And you mentioned to us that it has a different structure to English. So, for example, in English, you might have, when you say the boy went to the shop, so you have the subject, the verb, and then the object, but then sign language would have a different arrangement.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned also that this is the range where
Yes,
you
yes.
use when
From
you're
the-
doing sign
yes,
language. So you
yes.
don't use your legs
No,
in
no,
sign
no, no,
language.
no.
Okay. Okay. And you also mentioned to us that if you'd like to get the attention of a deaf person, that you wave to them or you tap them on their back, and they'll appreciate it if you speak to them in sign language. Because if someone speaks to you in your mother tongue, you all of a sudden are, you know, and happy, you know, and you feel that feeling of home. And now when it comes to the situation with deaf members of our communities, if you speak to them in sign language, then they'll know that this is a person who cares about us and who wants to connect to us. So that's something wonderful.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Yeah. Now,
That's why I say there's because there's lack of interpreters, or even lack of people that can communicate to them. You know, for that matter, like even within the household, something that's just a bit sad, but a reality. Some mothers or fathers also can't sign. You understand? So that's why I say they really honor you when you are, or do make any efforts towards learning, or you know, to learning, or or any way to communicate, man.
okay,
You understand?
okay. Yes. Before we move to the Shahadah, how to say the Shahadah in sign language, can you teach us how to greet them in sign language? Maybe hello.
Yes. If you want to like take the English transliteration, it would be peace.
Or of Assalamu alaikum.
Yes.
Okay.
Peace
Peace
be
be
with
with
you.
you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And a simpler way, like you know, that is now the from Arabic to English, right? Peace be with you. But the way we greet people is just like Assalamu alaikum.
Okay.
You know?
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, easy,
Okay.
simple. Can you see how easy it is to?
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
just
so
to
at
communicate. So
at
if
the
you,
very least we should know is how to greet
yes,
them.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay.
That's something basic.
MashaAllah. And now can we move to the Shahada?
Okay. So the Shahadah structure and things we also changed, not changed the meaning,
Yes.
but just easier words, and you know. So it goes like I.
And also we're doing the sign language of the Shahada from English
Yes.
and
yes.
not from Arabic.
No. No.
Okay.
Right? So it's I
I
truly
truly
believe.
believe
Yes, believe in
in
one
one
Allah,
Allah,
and
and
I
I
truly
truly
believe
believe
Prophet
Prophet
Muhammad,
Muhammad
yes,
is
the last
the last
messenger
messenger
of
of
Allah.
Allah. Okay, subhanallah. Wonderful, wonderful. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad that we've learned how to say the Shahadah, and I'll try to practice it when I go back home, inshallah.
Yes, yes.
I've clearly have not memorized it right now,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
then it requires a lot of practice. So, inshallah, I hope that we learn how to at least greet deaf members of our communities and those of who are hard of hearing, so that we can connect to them. And I would like to now come to the end of our discussion, our wonderful discussion for today. And I hope that some of the points that you take home from this discussion is, first of all, to see people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken the ni'mah of hearing as people who are like you. You know, they're not different. They're people like you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created them in that way, and we need to avoid anything that might make them feel excluded and uncomfortable, and to remove the stigma that surrounds and such individuals. And another important point that we would love all the viewers to take home is the importance of learning sign language. As Brother Abdul Wahid shared with us, that a hearing person can learn how to speak in sign language,
Yes.
but a deaf person cannot learn how to hear. And deaf people's lives become harder, not because they cannot hear, but because we cannot communicate to them. So by being able to communicate to them, by taking steps in learning how to, speak to them or communicate to them through sign language, you make their lives considerably easier, or much easier. And that is something that we need to take heart of and start thinking about, and inshallah implementing it, to learn how to speak in sign language. And finally, an institution like Al-Waagah Institute would not be able to assist the deaf members of our communities if they do not have the needed funds in running their projects and initiatives. So I encourage all our viewers, or all those who are going to watch inshallah the video, and if you have the ability, to assist the institute, so that we can spread as much benefit as possible to them. The idea of doing khidmah, of being in the service of other people out of love and compassion, that you want other people to be in a state of well-being and happiness, and not in pain and suffering. Shukran for the two of you for joining me and for today. I'm glad that we had this much needed conversation and informative discussion, and I hope that it will bring about some benefit to everyone who watched. Alhamdulillah. And this brings us to the end of the session. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.